Very well said, Dr. Suma. We can even see the passion and the conviction through which you made those statements through your own life experiences. I think it's been very useful. So if I can just ask Pramila that with the International Baccalaureate program which the International School has, you mentioned in your last, you answered the last question about the importance of projects and experiential learning. We know that the international system focuses a lot on that. Coming to, what are some of the future trends or best practices, since it's an international program, what are some of the best practices that you feel that the audience can benefit from based on that approach?
If it's okay with you, I'd just like to read what the philosophy of the IB is, if you don't mind, yeah? So the philosophy of the IB is the responsibility of educators is no longer just to prepare good mathematicians, good biologists, or good historians. The mission of schools is to prepare young people, the decision makers of tomorrow, to live in a complex, multicultural society, undergoing a process of rapid change and opening up a new world. Of course, the cognitive component of an educational system is fundamental for the acquisition of intellectual and professional skills. Even more important is the acquisition of attitudes in the learning process in a context of cultural exchanges. And so what we're talking about is that students need to be able to produce and not just critique. I mean, produce and critique, but not just repeat knowledge. So I think whatever information or whatever trends that we are now taking we need to look at subjects as tools, not as an end to themselves. And so the whole thing that, as Ranjini was saying, learning is the key point here. How do we facilitate learning? How do we enhance learning so that the child is able to take the information and then change it? This, I think, is really the crux of what trends in education are now. And I think more and more, perhaps to some extent, even in the Indian context, we are beginning to see the changes of it. There is a little more of, as Ma'am said, the things in colleges are changing, the attitudes and the process by which teaching takes place. So I think maybe in our lower sections, maybe in our government schools, the changes are not as adequate as we would like them to be. But I'm hoping that in the years to come, that even from the political point of view, people will look at it and say, okay, yeah, we need to make these changes and put in some practices, even if it's not the best practices that we want. I think a major key to the whole thing would also be the teacher training aspect. That if we get into that and say, okay, how are we going to train our teachers? Because our teachers are still doing the talk and talk.
Sure.
And our teachers are still doing the book knowledge. So unless we, impassion them to say, okay, I want to do this, I want to be different, I want to teach. But right now it seems to, it's more like, how do I get a job? And so, I need to have the grades for that. And if I have to have the grades for that, I need to reproduce information on an exam paper and get the highest grade, and then I get a job, and then I'm set. Like I was saying, it's all about the job. But that's not what it's about. It's about changing lives, and it's about, giving them the desire to be the best teacher that they are. And I have seen very few teachers who actually have that passion to teach, or even the desire to. Most of them are just worn out. Another part of the, the fixed curriculum, I have to do this in this time, and they have to pass an exam, otherwise I might get a job. So I think those are some of the areas that we really need to look at and address from that point of view.
Great.
Yeah, it's been great listening to the way Suma and the other panelists have described learning itself. In this whole process of learning, we should not diminish the role of a teacher. If there are any teachers here, although your role as a teacher has evolved from that of a one-point knowledge transfer person to that of a facilitator, I think, in effect, the role of a teacher has multiplied today, in today's scenario. They've become encouragers, supporters, challengers, mentors, somebody who identifies individual needs of every child. So the teachers have a huge responsibility in this whole revolution, and of course parents, because they have to play the supportive role. What I would really like to end with is by saying that we are all here to educate ourselves, not to education itself as an end, but the education is for life. And if it is for life and to celebrate life, we are aiming at making good human beings. I think that is pivotal to education. So if there's anything we can do to make good human beings, good citizens, I think that's where we need to put our first priority on. Because if you look at the typical scenario today among students and generally the social scenario, the emotional problems that there are, the number of suicides among students, people just giving up on life because it didn't make meaning to them, or they couldn't really excel in studies or in college, and the competition, it's really something that's worrisome. So the real thing about education is educating the heart, educating a human being for life and for being good human beings. That's what I would like to end with. That's really my priority.
Thanks. Thanks very much, Ranjini and Krishna. Any closing comments from you?
I think from every incident, one should take some lessons, or by any event, one should say take some lessons. The lessons I would like to take back from this panel discussion and from the excellent keynote lecture we had on the very event is that how I can make our corporate social responsibility, channel corporate social responsibility beyond just giving clothes or giving to how we can probably create more science education kits, or probably fund and organize. If ISKCON takes Akshay Patra food to schools, can we take science on wheels to the schools, to labs? So I look at how we can re-engineer corporate social responsibility in creating more science kits. How many children have seen a magnet in their house? I mean, I'm not talking about the schools to which our children go, but many corporation schools, etc. How many children have seen how a concave lens and a convex lens looks? So I take it as a responsibility to channel our corporate social responsibility to either fund some science on wheels, vans going to schools, or give some kits to education kits to schools, or maybe request some of our engineers, why don't you develop some download and compile some good CDs of good experiments on each topics, and let's distribute them and play them in schools. So for me, this session has given me good direction to think in these lines what we can do in corporate social responsibility.
Sure, and that's a very good idea. And how do we, as corporates, give back to the system and encourage science? I think that's a very valid and relevant point. Thank you so much for your useful insights. It's been a wonderful session. Okay, so any questions for the panelists?
Good morning, everybody. My name is Ganapati Raman, and we are from all the four of us from Sri Ayyappan High School, Jayabahar. And the first question I would like to raise is, yes, when the children do the experiments, obviously they learn much better, and it is a way to teach science with fun. But as teachers, one main constraint for us, the Indian syllabus contest is time constraint.
Yeah.
Can you just throw some light how to balance time as well as teaching science with more experiments? Of course, some experiments we can think about it. That's the first question. In fact, I wanted to ask this question to Dr. Upul Satrabhadyada. But anyway, I thought I will have some answer from the panel. Let me ask this question. Kindly throw some light on that line. Second thing is, just now Dr. Bahman was telling that corporate responsibility, it's very good thought. Of late, my observation is many students are happy with playing with mobile games particularly. If you can think something, combining science with mobile games. For example, Dr. Suma was telling blood circulation. You can develop game where you find characters. If a child is eating junk food, how exactly it affects the health of the child with obesity or diabetes. On the other hand, a child with good food, how exactly it may be the way to teach the children how exactly they can understand the consequences of science. Or you can even develop games with the Doppler effect, or develop games with the recession effect of Abel's law, whatever it is there. Umpteen experiments are there, as he told. In fact, that will perhaps make the children to understand things much better. And one more thing is my observation in the Indian syllabus context, we stress upon more on applied science rather than the pure science. Even as corporate organization, you expect engineers, but how many of you are taking a PhD or MSc with a good salary when there is no much financial support for them? Obviously, many students do not like to pursue pure science. And that ultimately affects our Indian scientific context. How many Nobel laureates we are able to develop. Every time I feel, from India we are not developed much of Nobel laureates. Perhaps we only talk about Dr. Sir C.V. Raman. Not much about that, because our context is that our syllabus, actually there was a question asked, what do you expect the changes with respect to curriculum? Our curriculum is that like that, we always think about only job-oriented education and result-oriented teaching. Our teaching is that the teachers try to cover the syllabus, because if they don't cover the syllabus, the children ultimately, they don't score marks. And for making them to score marks, we have to make them to mug up things. We definitely, as science teacher, want to do more experiments in the class. The main constraint is time and other facilities. In fact, I have to tell about my school. Our school is a social cause where all the children are from the below poverty line background, and they do not have any economical support at the parental level, or for that matter, they are all first generation learners. Whatever they learn only in the school, only they understand things. Madam was telling about how exactly she has encouraged to know about their children. Dr. Bhagavan also was telling about that, how exactly happened there. That type of environment is not there in schools which are supporting economic background children, and it's schools in rural India. In that case also you can think about that, whether changing the syllabus or giving more scope for science, or how exactly you have to encourage scientific community. If you can do something, I think definitely teacher job also will become easy. Thank you, this is very kind of you.